Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to my YouTube live. As stated on the poster, we are doing human and social biology revision as much as we can. We're going to do a little bit of theory first, and then we'll do some past paper questions. And then immediately after that, we'll take a short break and then we get into CSEC biology. All right, so guys, let me see you drop some flags in the chat. Let me see where you are in the Caribbean, and welcome to DOA Caribbean. Welcome to DOA International Education, rather. So let me see you drop some flags in the chat. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Loving the flags there. Awesome, awesome. So the first thing on our objective list here is we as human and social biology students, we must understand the characteristics of living things. You might be saying, Miss, is this important? But yes, I've seen past paper questions asking students to state the characteristics of living organisms. So if you remember from the very first start of your classes, you were introduced to 7 characteristics of living things. They are, and in no particular order, we'll start with nutrition. So this is nutrition. All right. So what is nutrition, you might ask? We say nutrition is the intake of food that can be used for the growth and development of living organisms, right? Following nutrition, again, we're going in no particular order. We have growth. Right? And what do we say is growth? So growth is an increase in weight or size of an organism, and that is caused by the growth in the right? Then we have excretion, right? We say excretion. Let's put that one there. Excretion. What is excretion, guys? So excretion is the removal of waste from the body. But what type of waste? Metabolic waste, right, guys? Awesome. So remember, you can definitely type in the chat if you don't understand what's going on. If you need any clarification, you can type in the chat. Sky says, when is bio? So bio is immediately after HSB. All right, so we have nutrition, growth, excretion so far. Next, we have respiration, right? What is respiration? All living things respire. So respiration is the release of energy from the food that we intake, right? When it is broken down and the energy is released, that is what we call respiration. So 3 more to go. What else? Let me see in the chat. What are some of the other characteristics of living organisms? What about irritability? That's my favorite topic to teach in the nervous system. Irritability. Right? What does it mean to be irritable? Good job, Hicksley. Good job. So irritability is that characteristics of an organism that gives them the capability to detect and react to the changes or the stimuli in the environment, right? Yep, we discussed that and we spoke about what are receptors, effectors, stimuli, all those beautiful stuff. All right, next, all living things move, right? Let me see if I can squeeze that here. Movement. All living things move, right? They move for food, they move to look for a mate, they move to run away from predators, right? So sometimes they move their whole body or they move certain parts of their body, but regardless, all living things move. And lastly, reproduction. So what is reproduction, guys? Let me see you type the definition in the chat. What do you think it is? So reproduction, we say reproduction is that characteristics of living things in that they mate either with another organisms or it is asexual. So, but in either case, there's a production of a new individual, right? That is reproduction, and those are the 7 characteristics of living things. Good job, Alexandra and Vishna, right? Sorry if I'm pronouncing for the exam tomorrow. All right, that's that with living organisms and the environment. Let's move on now. As you can see, this is a very, very common topic in human and social biology, cells. So cell biology, yes, it is pretty common. So it says compare the structures of an unspecialized plant and animal cell and selected microbes. So the key, Monique says good night. When is the crash course for biology? It's immediately after HSB, so in the next 1.5 hours. All right. So compare the structures of unspecialized plant and animal cells. So the key word here is unspecialized. So what does that mean? So it means that these cells have not yet become dedicated to their roles, right? So we're looking at the animal here, the plant, and we are also looking to the right. You'll be seeing them in their specialized role, right? That's just for comparison. So guys, let me see you type in the chat what are some of the organelles that you are seeing in the structure in the animal cell. Let's start with the animal cell first. So great. The nucleus, right? This structure here. Oops. The nucleus. That's the nucleus right there. What else are you seeing? You're seeing the mitochondria, cell membrane. Awesome job, Jane. All right. Cytoplasm, good job. So awesome job with the organelles. So we are seeing the cell membrane, the vacuole, the gray organelle there is the vacuole. The mitochondria, that's the orange one with the red indentations there. That's represented the different indentations in the mitochondria. And of course the vacuole. Great job. And then below the animal cell, we have the plant cell, right? So I'm seeing some great organelles here in the chat. Of course, the plant cell, it has a extremely large vacuole used in storage. And then you can see I've color coded the cell wall here and the cell membrane internal to it, right? It also has a nucleus, but it's not so large as in the animal cell. It's more to the side to facilitate the large vacuole there. And of course, I'm seeing in the chat, chloroplast, right? So beside these cells, you'd see the specialized cell. So this is a specialized plant cell. It has now become dedicated to its role, right? So this is a root hair cell, right? So it's specialized to the absorption of water, right? Here we have a specialized animal cell. This is the egg, right? As you can see, it's specialized to its role in sexual reproduction. Yeah? Any questions? You can just type them in the chat if you have any questions. All right. Recall that the question asks for microbes, right? So what are different microbes in our environment? We have bacteria, we have fungi, and we also have viruses, right? Let's start with the bacteria. Going into the exam, you want to familiarize yourself of the various sperm cell. So Mark, you would say a sperm cell would be a specialized animal cell. All right. Now, going into the exam, you want to familiarize yourself with the different microbial cells or structures. Let's start with the bacteria. Now, the bacteria for the DNA, as you can see, it's not enclosed in a nucleus as what you saw in the animal cell, right? It is naked, right? So it floats around in the internal part of the bacteria. All right, I'm seeing in the chat flagella. Yes, the bacteria cell, yes, it has a flagella and it's used in motility, right? Meaning the movement of this bacteria cell. All right, what else are you seeing? These round structures are what we call plastids, right? Anything else? The bacterial cell, it has a cell wall, right? Not a cell membrane, a cell wall made up of peptidoglycan, meaning that it's a mixture of protein and sugar. So ensure you don't go to the exam and say the bacteria cell wall is made up of glucose or cellulose, right? No. So that's the bacteria. Look at the fungi now, guys. The fungi has both a cell wall and a cell membrane. Yes, it has a cell wall and a cell membrane, and the cell wall sometimes has cellulose inside of it, right? It also has a nucleus. Remember, they are living organisms, and cytoplasm as well, right? Any questions? Remember, you type your questions in the chat, guys. All right. Let's move into the virus, guys. This is the basic structure of a virus. What do you notice about the anatomy here? What do you notice? Yes, it has a genetic, very good gene. There's proteins, there's genetic material. So here's the genetic material. It does not have a nucleus, but it's center to the virus, right? We have the capsid. What else do we see? We have these little receptor thingies. They're made up of glycoproteins, right? That's the virus. So going into the exam, remember, familiarize yourselves of the microbial cell structures, the bacteria, the plant, the animal, the fungi, and the virus, right? Both specialized and unspecialized cells. Cool. All right, so we can move into some other objectives before we get into the past papers, because we're ending at 6:30 to facilitate the bio students. All right, so explain the importance of osmosis, diffusion, and active transport in living organisms. That's where we're going in. So going into these three terms, before we talk about the importance, what are the definitions? Let me see you state the definitions in the chat. So diffusion, what do you know about diffusion? What do you know about osmosis? What do you know about active transport? I know, right, Mark? So Mark says HSB is bio and bio is HSB. I know, right? So all the bio students just stay here. Great job, Vishna. Great job. So diffusion is going from higher to lower, right? So let's define it. So we say diffusion, it is the movement of particles from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. So love how you're using up the terminologies. Concentration. Excellent. Right? So particles, they move down a concentration gradient from high to low for diffusion. Always remember that. Now, in knowing the definition for diffusion, you want to familiarize yourself with the different examples of diffusions in the body. What if you get the definition and you have to provide an example? So you want to always equip yourself with that. OMG, look in the chat. My gosh, all grade ones. So an example of diffusion in the body is in the lungs, specifically at the alveoli, and these are some little sacs in our lungs where we have gaseous exchange occurring, right? So as you can see, the gases are moving along a concentration gradient. So there is as you can see, oxygen is diffusing into the capillary here because it's moving from a high concentration inside the alveoli to a low concentration in the capillary, right? For carbon dioxide, there is much more concentration of the gas in the capillary, so it will move out into the alveoli where there is a lesser amount. Cool? Listen, this is all grade ones. Look at the beautiful definitions. Wow. Amazing. High five, virtual high fives. So that's diffusion. All right, let's get into osmosis. You guys are already defining osmosis. Awesome. Osmosis has to do with what type of molecule? Water molecules, right? Great job. So it is a special case of diffusion, right? So it is the movement of water molecules, but it is across a semi-permeable membrane, right? That it's it, right? So water is moving from where there's a lesser amount of solutes to where there's a more amount of solutes, right? Awesome. So let me say in this cell now, these are solutes. These are solutes. The pink things here, they are solutes. So we have more solutes on the outside and we have a little bit of solutes on the inside. So you tell me now in the chat, where is water going to move into this cell? What's the direction? Let me see it in the chat. Very good, Veshna. Very good. So it will be moving from the lower concentration into the cell, rather into the cell, Renika and Veshna. Very good. So this is the direction. So it's going into the cell. Right? That's the direction of, no, that's not correct. Sorry. So there is a lot of solutes on the outside and there is less solutes on the inside, but there's a lot of water on the inside here than out here. So water must, let me clear this. That's not the direction. That's not the direction. So water will move out of the cell, right, guys? Because there's more solutes here than inside. That's the correct flow of water. Are we clear on that? There's more solutes on the outside than inside, so water is moving towards the solutes. Same thing here for the Irish potato cells that we did in class. For the Irish potato cells, there's more water on the inside and there's more salt on the outside, or sugar if you did it with sugar. So where's water moving? It's moving towards the solute, right? It's moving towards the solute. So that is osmosis. And then active transport. Now, what is active transport? So this is when particles, it moves across a cell membrane against, so not along, against a concentration gradient, as I saw in the chat, right? But the direction is from low to high. And for the particles to go from a low amount to a high amount, they're going to need an aid here, right? So they're going to need an aid. So we say they use proteins that use energy, right? That use adenosine triphosphate to get the molecules inside the cell. Clear? So remember, for these three terminologies, diffusion, osmosis, and active transport, you want to familiarize yourself with the definitions and the examples of where they occur in the body. Can you guys give me some examples of where diffusion, osmosis, and active transport happen in the body? So meanwhile, we're moving into photosynthesis, you can type that into the chat. So let's talk about photosynthesis. So the key objective here says, explain the process of photosynthesis. So photosynthesis, what it is? Photosynthesis is the making of sugars from carbon dioxide and water using light energy and chlorophyll, right? So that is photosynthesis. So you need to know the word and chemical equation for photosynthesis. Cool? So let's start with the word. So the word equation is carbon dioxide, yes, plus water will give you glucose and oxygen. So thank you for the answers in the chat. So osmosis and diffusion, very good. Thank you. Right, so right now we are doing the word and chemical equation for photosynthesis. We already define it, so we are going to be writing it. Let's see if we can accomplish that. So carbon dioxide plus water give you glucose plus oxygen. So let's do this equation. Oxygen is 6O2, glucose is C6H12O6, water is H2O, and carbon dioxide is CO2. Let's quickly balance it. Right? So I can't stress the importance of knowing the equations for photosynthesis. Very important. Right? So how is the process of photosynthesis achieved? Thank you, Nigel. Thank you. Good job. How is it achieved, guys? So we have carbon dioxide here found in the environment that will enter the leaf through the stomata, right? Where does the plant get the water from? From absorption in the root. Right, guys? Remember we look at that specialized plant root cells just now? Right? So also we have light here. So light is that energy source that drives the process of photosynthesis, right? Is that it is absorbed in these structures here that we call the chloroplast, right? That contain the green pigment chlorophyll, right? Any questions as it relates to photosynthesis? So what happens? Some of it is stored in plant organs like the seed and roots, and some of it is used during respiration to release energy. Right? This is a key question, this is a key past paper question. What happens to the food made from photosynthesis? So for photosynthesis overall, you need to know the word and the chemical equation, right? The site, which is in the chloroplast, right? How is it achieved, and the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis, right? Remember these factors that they did in the SBA: light intensity, carbon dioxide level, and temperature, right? So knowing stuff like that will kind of give you that push for photosynthesis. All right, this is our last theory that we're going to look at. We're going to move over into some past paper questions. All right, for HSB before the time goes. All right, so let's quickly look at the food chain and the food webs. Common past paper questions here. So what is the food chain, guys? So it's a chain, or it's a flow of energy in one direction, right? Versus the flow of energy in different paths or direction in the food web as seen here, right? As good HSB students, you want to know the different food chains and web that can be found in different habitats, right? For example, this is an aquatic food chain. This is a terrestrial food chain. Aquatic mean found in water, terrestrial mean found in land, right? All right, so let's jump into some past paper questions. Someone asked us to go through, I think it was this one, the 2017 one. It says table 1, problems associated with persons who abuse drug. And as you can see, the different problems versus the different drugs. And the first question says, identify the drug that has the most negative impact on the user. All right. And which two drugs have the greatest impacts on users' relationships with friends and family and academic life? So, tobacco and alcohol. All right, so there is another table. The table is going to take up our time. So let's do questions that will cover most of by 7:30. So it says Portia has been overweight for about 20 years. Suggests 3 health problems that she could develop as a result of her excess weight. Awesome. So diabetes is one, obesity, coronary heart disease, hypertension. Well done. So the doctor tells Portia that she's suffering from malnutrition. Explain to Portia how it is possible to be overweight and suffering from malnutrition. So there is an objective in the syllabus that says that you must know the difference between obesity and malnutrition. So what do you think is obesity versus malnutrition? Awesome. Right, awesome. So obesity is actually a form of malnutrition. So malnutrition is caused by eating a diet in which the nutrients are not sufficient, right? So she could be obese, but she could be eating only one type of nutrient. So she's not having a balanced nutrient there. So she can be suffering from malnutrition. This is 2017. So the doctor advises Portia to eat more fruits and vegetables. Of what benefit would fruits and vegetables be to her? So this is just basically asking you for some health benefits of fruits and vegetables. So what are the benefits of fruits and vegetables? So fruits, especially citrus fruits, packed with vitamins, vegetables packed with minerals. She could also, apart from those vitamin and minerals, she could also be benefiting from dietary fiber. So for those who are asking about biology, we're having biology marathon immediately after this. Sorry, not immediately. So we're going to have a short break and then we do bio. So you can stay tuned. All right. So take a look at this. Take a look at this concept map depicting the process of photosynthesis. And we are going to think of the answers for 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let me see you type them in the chat. So basically, this is just asking us what we just spoke about, guys, when we were looking at theory. It's just asking us for the raw materials and the products of photosynthesis. So look at look at 1. So it says green pigment called, what is the green pigment called, guys? Chlorophyll. Awesome. So Amy is answering it for us. Awesome job. So this is chlorophyll in the presence of sunlight. What else? Water and carbon dioxide. And it says these 4 rather, are used to make food in the form of, what is the name of the sugar? Glucose. Awesome job, Amy. So we are done with that. So bio is immediately after this, guys. All right, so this is the cycle that is most stressed about in the syllabus, the carbon cycle. So the first question says, at what stage in the cycle does carbon dioxide enter the food chain? Well, what do you think that is? Remember, we cannot use carbon dioxide, so it cannot be respiration. So what stage of the cycle does carbon dioxide enter the food chain? It has to be through, we just spoke about it here, has to be through photosynthesis, right? Awesome job. And it says here, at what stage of the cycle are humans having a major effect on the carbon cycle? So it's talking about the anthropogenic activities of humans. So what is it called? It starts with humans having a major effect on the carbon cycle. So respiration, right? We are releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, or even combustion, right? Those could be 2 answers. Next, farming wants to improve the nitrogen content of his farmland. State 2 reasons why it is important for plants to have an adequate amount of nitrogen. So what is the role of nitrogen for farm plants? So you could have stated here that we need nitrogen in the formation of chlorophyll, right? We know chlorophyll is that pigment used in photosynthesis for trapping light energy, right? So nitrogen is important there. Also, we need nitrogen for proteins, right? It is a major component of amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. Cool? All right. Name two types of bacteria which provide nitrogen when present in soils. So this is testing your knowledge on the nitrogen cycle. So it, yeah, that's true. That is true. That is true. I'm looking at the 2022 updated syllabus now, so we can skip this question. Awesome job. So for the bio students here, you keep that in mind. Keep the nitrogen content in mind. All right, so it says Farmer Sings garden borders a river. He's concerned that his farming activities will result in the pollution of the river. So suggest 3 pollutants that may run off from the garden into the river. What are 3 pollutants? Pesticides, right? Whether you choose to write out the names of the chemicals, you will still, or the categories, you'll still get them correct, right? As long as you name the chemicals, they are pollutants, so you'd still get them correct. So whether you choose to categorize them as pesticides, herbicides, fertilizer, you'll still get them correct. If you name them out, you'll get them correct. And the next part says 2 effects of pollutants. So for the first one, I suggest that you familiarize yourself on the concept of eutrophication, which is the growth and release of chemicals that cause the aquatic animals to grow, right? So eutrophication, what else could be effects of pollutants? So here you will see the term that comes to, the terms that should come to your minds would be eutrophication, bioaccumulation, biomagnification, those terms that are in your textbook. That should, those are the terms rather should come to your mind. All right, so it says bone is a living tissue. One of its functions is to protect the internal organs. State one function of bone other than the protection of internal organs. So we could say here that bone make blood cells, specifically in the bone marrow, right? So we could say bone make blood cells, red blood cells. And state 2 functions of the vertebral column. So type in the chat, what is the vertebral column, guys? Very good, Scott. Awesome job there. So we know the vertebral column protects the spinal cord. It's very delicate, right? So it protects the spinal cord. It also provides attachments to muscles, right? Protects the nerve roots and so forth. Those are could be some functions of the vertebral column. And then now we're moving into this table, and it says table 3 shows information on bone and cartilage, and we're to complete table 3 by writing correct answers in the slot. So it says bone versus cartilage, and we are looking at the location, the structure, and the function, right? So what is coming to your minds? So where are cartilage found? Very good. So they are found at the end of bones, right? Or where two bones meet. Awesome. So cartilage, they are cells with a tough, flexible matrix. What would you put for the structure of bone? Awesome. So bone is made up of living cells also. Cool. Good job with a matrix. Awesome. Awesome job. And the function, protection of internal organs for bone. What is the function of cartilage? So they cover the end of bones to stop them from rubbing together. So to reduce friction. And it also helps to absorb shocks. Right? So this one says, awesome, Nigel. Awesome. Good job, Jaylee. You guys are brilliant. So during a football match, Chades Puyol twists his ankle, falls and injures his knee, which later becomes swollen. And then now we should identify the type of joint that is found in the knee region and describe the movement associated with this joint. So the name of the joint in our knee, guys. Hinge. Awesome. And hinges in what? What is the direction? Good job. So it is in one plane. Yes, I'm trying to save this to the YouTube channel. And then it says, several days later, Pio's hip is extremely painful. Describe the difference in terms of movement between the joint at the hip and the joint between the skulls. So what type of joint is in the hip? What is it called? Awesome. It is called a ball and socket. And what is the type of joint in our skull? Fix. Awesome. Good job. And it's asking you for the difference, right? So we know that ball and socket, it can move into a variety of locations, backward, forward, sideways, rotating movements overall, right? And fix, it cannot move. All right. Last question for HSB, then we take a break and then we move into biomarathon. It says lack of vitamin D results in bone disease in children. This disease results in bone being unable to become hard, and as a result, the limbs become bent. Explain why vitamin D is necessary for proper bone formation and name the disease that occur in its deficiency. So why is vitamin D necessary for bone formation? So rickets, correct? So it's needed for building and maintaining healthy bones, correct? And the absorption of calcium. Awesome job. And lastly, it says large intakes of carbonated beverage have an effect on bones similar to that caused by vitamin D. Suggest a mineral, which mineral is most likely being suggest which mineral is most likely being lost from the bone. What is the name of the mineral? Awesome job. All right, guys. So that's the end of our HSB marathon for tonight. So any HSB related questions for me? I'm just going to give you a little encouragement. I got a grade 1 in human and social biology. I got the highest grade in way back in what year was it? Years ago. I think it was a decade ago. More than a decade ago. That's a long time since I took CSEC, right? I studied a lot. I studied the whole span. So I didn't just study one section, right? I covered as many topics as I can, and I practice. Going into the exam, don't leave any questions unanswered. Don't leave any questions unanswered. If there's a question too difficult, you move on and you finish the easy question and you come back to it, right? You can do it. You can get a grade 1. When I did HSB, there wasn't an SBA component, so I think it was much easier for me in terms of now you guys have HSB component. But nevertheless, getting a grade 1 is attainable. And for the 54 of you guys here, you are going to come out with a grade 1. You are going to see me or DM me on Instagram in the next 2 months. You're going to say, Miss, I got a grade 1 in HSB, and I'm going to say, I told you so. So guys, good luck, and remember to follow me on Instagram, right? DOA Caribbean, sorry, DOA International EDU. All right, so we're going to take a short. If you don't study every day, you still can pass. So remember to follow my Instagram, DOA International EDU, and subscribe to the channel. Right now. So we are going on a 10 minutes break and we start biology immediately. All right, so tell your friends that we're gonna start bio at 7:43. All right, thank you guys.